on and then set negative or positive, either one. We'll set it and then we'll hold it down. You'll see now it's accelerating. Hey guys, Lewis here from swaphelper.com with an update on the column helper and the 02 to 07 cluster helper. So let's jump right into it. So before me I've got the second revision of the column helper, which will allow you to run a 2008 to 2016 column in your 99 to 07 swap truck. It'll do the cruise control for you. It'll do the blinkers. You'll actually have tap to pass. Does the ignition, which are done in relays. It'll do the headlights, high beams, flash to pass, etc., etc., etc. The headlights, high beams, and the blinkers, brake lights, all that are done in solid state. Now, I get a lot of questions. When's it going to ship? When can I order it? And we are working very hard to get these things done. I put a ton of time into these, into development, and it's very important that the products not only work properly, but that they fail properly. And what I mean by that is if there's an issue, how they're handled by the product themselves, and making sure that basically the products will survive in the automotive environment, which is extremely harsh. So this is the revision 2. You know, I try to tell people when they ask, well, when's it going to ship? When can I order it? And a lot of times it comes down to testing. I don't know until I build the next iteration, is this going to be the one that is going to be production level ready? And I can tell you it's going to take one more revision. So I'm probably 2 or 3 weeks out from being able to opening pre-ordering on the column helper. It works great as it is, and I could ship it as is, and it would work great in pretty much every circumstance, but in some failure modes I'm just not happy with the performance, and so I'm going to see if I can make it better with one more iteration. And that's what we go through on our product development. That's why we have thousands of products sold that are in thousands of trucks, millions of miles booked, trouble-free miles, because we spend that extra time. We make sure that the products are bulletproof when they go out the door, because we don't want warranty claims, we don't want upset customers, etc., etc., etc. So I've got some footage of the 11 to 16 cruise. If you haven't already, you can jump on our YouTube channel. You can see all the stuff about the blinkers and the tap to pass and all that. But it'll also in the 99 to 2001 trucks, it'll do the wiper, so you have full interval control, both for the regular trucks and the excursions. It will also do the cruise control, 2008 to 2016. Basically, there's a select wire you connect to ground, connected to ground if you're doing 11 to 16 cruise control, and it gives you full 11 to 16 cruise control, so you have resume, on, off, set negative and set positive. So I can cut to that footage here in a minute, and then we'll jump on to taking a look at the 02 to 07 cluster helper. All right, so we're here in the 2001 Dev Excursion. Y'all have seen the interior of many times. And I'm running a, I think, 2014 gasser cluster, or I can't remember exactly what year it is, but you notice it doesn't have the turbo gauge. So I've got the 2016 buttons installed in the, I think it's a 2010 King Wrench steering wheel. And I've repinned the clock spring connector, which we will cover in a video on how to do that. And we're going to have full use of the directional buttons for the menu on the cluster, and we're going to have full use of the cruise control thanks to the column helper, which is down there in a tangled mess of wires. Still have the dash and everything torn apart for development. So one of the key things about having these buttons run through the column helper, as opposed to some of the homemade solutions that guys are doing with trying to change resistors and solder wires onto the boards, is that you have the static test on the 99 to 04 trucks, which basically, if you use the buttons, you can test the cruise control servo. If you modify these and you turn this into on and off and whatever, and you lose resume, or however you approach it, you're not going to be able to execute the static test. So if you ever have a problem with your cruise control, you won't be able to execute the test to figure out exactly why. And if you've never run a static test, basically you press off, on, resume, I believe it's set negative, set positive, and then for each button press you will get a blink out on the cluster as each button's pressed to confirm that they're correct and you don't have an issue with the buttons. And then it'll blink out either a single blink if it passes a static test, or it'll give you a series of blinks if it's the brake pedal switch or something of that nature. The VSS signal input is held low or high, or et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if I can turn the ignition on. Let's see if I can. Okay, so I'm holding down off over here, and then okay, there you go. So we just did the static test. You may have heard the servo pull on the cable, and that's indicating that everything's passed. So you got a single blink. So that test you can only execute if you have access to all the buttons. So the way that the column helper works is it'll toggle this for you between on and off. And when you first turn it on, if you're holding this down, it'll do the static test. If you're not, then the first time you press it when you're driving, it'll turn it on. And every time that you restart the truck, it'll default to off, and then you press it one time and it turns on. So now what we'll do is go ahead and fire this up. Now, if anybody is wondering how we're getting the cluster to work, of course, it's the cluster helper. This is the 99 to 01. So let's go ahead and fire it up. All right, there we go. So let's just get up to speed here. Let me put my seatbelt on. So now we're going to press on and then set negative or positive, either one. We'll set it and then we'll hold it down. You'll see now it's accelerating. You still have the use of resume, so if I hit the brakes and slow down, and then if I hit resume, then it will resume on its own, which is nice. You don't lose that functionality. All the buttons work. You have set negative, set positive. And then of course we have off, which you can just press off and that turns it off. So we can press it again, and then set positive, and there we go. I'll hold it down a little bit so we can get up to speed. So it's really nice. So you basically with a wire you can select between the 2008 to 2010 cruise control, or the 11 to 16. I almost forgot. I got to show you that the directional buttons work for going through the menu. They all work, which is really nice. So you can go down, information, system check, go through all the menus. And I got to keep driving. I got people getting behind me, but but you get the point. All the buttons work all the way through. It functions like a factory 11 to 16 truck with cruise control and the directional buttons. Okay, so one thing I'd like to touch on regarding the 11 to 16 column itself. After a lot of deliberation and internally looking at it and looking at the technical challenges and everything, we've decided not basically to require you to retrofit the 11 to 16 column to the 2008 to 10 clock spring. And it's a kind of a long technical story, and I won't get into it, but the bottom line is that the 11 to 16 has a steering wheel control computer, basically a computer or module right at the steering wheel column that takes all the inputs and sends that information out over some of the vehicle communication buses. And you have to remember everything that we're interfacing with here, from the clusters to that particular module, we don't have any documentation. Of course, we're reverse engineering it. The cluster is one thing, reverse engineering that if something was a little funky and we had to issue a software update, not a big deal. But when you get into safety systems, when we get into blinkers, when we get into windshield wipers and things of that nature, interfacing with systems that have zero documentation, there are chances for outcomes that are not anticipated. And for basically from a liability perspective, we've decided, at least at this time, that we don't want to interface with that module. Now, I'm sure someone out there is going to jump up and down and say, oh, I can do it with an Arduino or something. And look, the bottom line is you're dealing with some, safety systems, essentially. People can get hurt, people can get injured if these systems don't work properly. And that's a responsibility that we take very seriously here. So long story short, the 2008 to 2010 clock spring multifunction switch and the associated stuff is simpler, and it will provide you almost identical functionality to the 11 to 16 after you do the retrofit. So we will be filming a video with the two columns next to each other. I'll explain the differences, and then I'll actually do a retrofit on video. There are some videos on YouTube that you can watch. It's not really involved, but it does take a little bit of work. But when it's done, you can have your telescopic 11 to 16 column in your truck using the column helper, use the 11 to 16 cruise, all that kind of stuff. So we'll go over more of that in the other video, but just plan if you're going to do 11 to 16 column, then you are going to need to retrofit to a 2008 to 2010 clock spring, the housing, and the multifunction switch. I will go over some things, and I'll make a video on how to repin the clock spring connector so that you can basically use all the buttons through the 2008 to 2010 clock spring. Like I said, if you'd like to see the solid state blinker functionality with the tap to pass and all that, we cover that in another video from a month or so ago. If you jump on our YouTube channel, you can find that video and you can see that. But at least in this video I did cover, and well, in that one we also cover the 8 to 10 cruise control. You can see me actually using it. Obviously in this one you can see us using the 11 to 16 with full functionality with the static test for the 99 to 2004 trucks. So with that, basically we're going to keep working. We're going to get this thing exactly to where we want it. And we will open pre-ordering on this. I can't wait to get this out. This has been a tremendous amount of work getting this dialed in for you guys. And in case we haven't covered it, the way it mounts is basically over where the inverter bracket, or I think it was like the Sirius XM module in the 8 to 10 dashes, just mounts there off of these two posts, and it of course will include the hardware to mount it and all that kind of good stuff. So so with that, I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to jump into something that I think a lot of people have been waiting for an update on, and that's going to be the 2002 to 2007 cluster helper. Now, this one's orange because it's a prototype. So we do that so it doesn't get mixed in with our regular production stock or inventory. So it's not going to be this color. You're also going to have your nice sticker like we did on the 99 to 01s. So we have it up and working on an 03 truck. I'm hoping to get some footage here in the next week or so. Same kind of thing. I don't know exactly how many more iterations are going to be required. I'm thinking about opening up a 90-day pre-order like I did on the 99 to 01s. So we'll see what we do with that. It just depends on how successful each iteration is as we continue to work on it. Now, this does not contain any relays, which is going to be a nice upgrade. As the clusters get older, those relays fail. I don't know why Ford decided to put relays soldered directly into the cluster, but they did. So this is going to take it all to solid state. So that's going to be a really nice upgrade. Not only do you lose the clicking sound, but you also should have a lower failure rate versus the relays, because they're mechanical and they will fail on a long enough timeline. Another cool thing that we're able to do is we actually were able to figure out the Tyco connectors on the original 05 to 07 clusters. I'm still working on the 02 to 04 clusters. I'm trying to figure out exactly where to get those connectors. But for now, 05 to 07, the reason this is important with these connectors is because this will allow us to create an almost plug and play setup for the 05 to 07 guys. So we'll keep searching and see if we can find the connectors for the 2002 to 2004. They're Tyco connectors as well. Well, what was Tyco? Tyco is now a different company, but these are the connectors from the 05 to 07 cluster. I was able to basically find the corresponding part numbers and blah blah blah. So we've got those, so that's going to be kind of cool as well. So just stay tuned. There will be more updates coming. You know, I was hoping to be able to announce pre-ordering in this video, but with the column helper and the cluster helper, it's just, we got to keep pushing forward. And obviously, while there are 3 of us here at Nentech, I am the sole developer, so it can only get done as fast as I can knock these things out. So some other news, the headlight helper has gone to fabrication, so hopefully we'll have that as well, which is basically going to be fully solid state for your headlights, and it's going to give you interior dimming, which a lot of people lose when they do their swap. It's going to provide dimming for the cluster, and it will provide dimming in the truck. And it'll use the 11 to 16 setup with the button and dome control, or the 2008 to 2010 with the rolling dimmer that clicks up for the dome. So that's going to be pretty cool. It'll also add auto lights to trucks that didn't have it. And basically, if your truck already has auto lights, not a big deal. If it doesn't, you just wire it into the sun load sensor, and you'll be up and running. The other cool thing is that the way it's going to provide the dimming, if you wanted to change out your little bulbs to LED, the speed of the dimming is much faster than the original setup, and so you'll be able to do that with this setup. So bottom line, stay tuned. We're going to have more updates soon. I'm pushing forward, trying to get all these products done. As I'm sure you guys can understand, it's a tremendous amount of work. Like I said, we have thousands of products sold, installed in thousands of trucks with millions of trouble-free miles booked, and that's a result of the hard work that we put in during the development process to make sure that we deliver products that are going to last. Well, the intention is for them to outlast the truck. So thank you for your time, and hope to post more stuff here soon. Thanks.